Adonai, ancient of days, reign, reign. Hello, neighbor. I know someone there may be asking, who is your neighbor? Well, that's exactly what we want to discuss today. Our Lord Jesus Christ gave a very interesting story about an event that happened to someone. And he used that story to teach us who our neighbor is. In the book of Luke, chapter 10, if you begin to read from verse 30 up to verse 37, there are so many things you will find out in that story. Today, I want us to look at it differently from the angle that picture paints for us. This certain man that went to Jericho, that met with thieves, who stripped him of his raiment, beat him up, and left him to die. This man can represent anybody. The thieves can represent anybody. Now, these thieves, these robbers, first stripped him of his belongings. Meanwhile, these robbers, when they met this certain man, ought to have known that this certain man, at the point of their meeting him, became their neighbor. And Jesus wants us to know there are things you cannot do to your neighbor. When in your office, when in your organization, when in your neighborhood, you pick up somebody and pieces that individual wickedly in a way to harm that person, in a way to demoralize that person, you are just like that thief. When you leave someone in such a way that you do not care whether the person dies or not, you are showing yourself a bad example of a neighbor. So many of you listening to me right now, you know precisely what you have done to someone that you know, someone that related with you. You have behaved like these thieves because you have stripped them of their belongings. You may have actually literally stolen from them, and they are crying, they are lamenting. Or you may have stripped them of their dignity before someone else, and you have left them. It doesn't matter to you whether they die in depression or not. That is not a concern to you. Now, Jesus talked about three categories of people that met this man that was wounded and left for the dead. First was the priest. Second was the Levite. And then a Samaritan. The priest and the Levites were just like the thieves, the robbers. There is no difference between them. Why? Because when they saw this man that the thieves or the robbers have dealt with very badly, instead of helping to change this man's state, they left him so that he can actually die, just the way the thieves did. So when you see people who have been wounded, badly wounded by one thing or the other. When you see them and you leave them without doing anything to help them get out of that position, then you are just as bad as the one who did that act that left them in that state. Are you a good neighbor or a bad neighbor? I pray that all of us that say we are the children of the living God, we make up our minds to begin to be good neighbors. When you hear about somebody, you are hearing about a neighbor. When you see somebody, you are seeing a neighbor. When you interact with somebody, you are interacting with a neighbor. Be careful of what you do to that neighbor. Be careful of what you don't do that you are supposed to do for that neighbor. God bless you.